Is there more to life? Can I be fully loved? Is there a lasting hope? Where can I find true peace? What is freedom? Why am I here? What is my purpose? In this series, we will explore how the resurrection of Jesus changes people's lives and how he invites us to discover a life worth living.
Good morning. If we haven't yet met, my name is Joel, and it's great to be here. If this is your first Sunday with us, thank you so much for being here. If there's anything we can do to help you in any way, please let us know. And wherever you are on your journey of faith, you are welcome here. So our heart is to help people find and follow Jesus. I just want to ask you a question. I want to know this. Have you ever lying awake at night? And it's not because all the noise outside. You know, we all have that. Sometimes the trains and sometimes just the neighbors, whatever's going on. It's not about what's going on the outside, but have you ever been awake because of what's going on the inside? You know, there's a noise, but it's a noise in here. It's a noise in here. You know, this noise in our heads and in our hearts. You know, and maybe it's our thoughts are racing, or maybe we're rehearsing something that happened. Maybe we're trying to recover from something that's happened, or maybe we're worried about something that might happen. It may not even actually come true. It could be a pressure at work. It could be a pressure in the family. It could be a pressure in your neighbor. It could be something health-wise. You're waiting for some results, and you haven't got the results through yet, and so you just imagine that it's going to be worse than it actually is. You know, there's this tangible noise that affects us even when we haven't even experienced. So whether it's rational or irrational, we experience this. And I think you probably know what I'm talking about. And we all long for peace, like a true peace. A peace that's just settles the noise almost. It settles the worry, settles the anxiety. And the thing about peace is, if it was so easy to find, so many people wouldn't be looking for it, right? I mean, if peace was actually easy, why would so many people not have it? If peace was simple, why would so many people still be looking for it? You know, and peace is difficult. We live in a world that's actually, you know this is true. I mean, there's overwhelming anxiety in our world at the moment. We look to doctors, medication. We look to mindfulness, digital detoxes. You know, put your phone away, do this. You know, we've got all these habits we can do. You can go for like a off-grid holiday. You can try to get away from everybody, get away from it all, and we can try all these things. And those things can be helpful, absolutely. You know, they can absolutely be helpful, but they don't always provide the solution. If they were the solution, like, it would fix it. But you know, if you've tried some of this stuff, it helps, but it doesn't solve it. So, you know, there's got to be something more, something deeper, because peace is more than just silence. Peace is more than just good circumstances. Peace is more than just the absence of conflict. It's something more than that. You know, it's something deeper. And we're made in this incredible way. You know, God created us. So we're emotional, physical, spiritual, social beings. You know, we're these incredibly whole beings, the way we've been made. And what happens is, that's why when you have a problem in the workplace, or maybe in a relationship, it means you'd have difficulty sleeping. It's hard to disconnect what's going on inside. You know, when you're feeling worried or anxious about something, it affects how you physically feel. You know, we can't segment the way we've been made. We've been made as whole beings, body, soul, spirit. You know, this is how God's designed us. And when one part of us is unsettled, we all feel it. You know, and we live with, I just sort of brainstormed a bit. There's Spider-Man, whatever you want to call it. We live with all these things: deadlines, conflicts, expectations, bills, never-ending laundry. Oh, my word. 6 of us in our house. What the heck? Uncertainty, assessments, you know, instability. You know, there's so much going on all around us. It just noise. And in the midst of all of that, all of us crave peace. And whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, we crave peace. You know, whether you don't even believe in God and it's the last thing on your minds, something in your heart knows that you crave peace. You crave something more than just the circumstances being good. There has to be more to life than this. And that's why we're doing this series. We're doing 5 weeks looking at what makes a life worth living, like really being alive. How do we really live it? And we know that it's got to be more than just our achievements or our possessions. It's got to be more than that. You know, no matter how much stuff you have, it doesn't mean life is rich. And no matter how many things you've achieved, it doesn't mean, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than just the stuff. It's got to be something deeper. It's got to be something deeper like love and hope and freedom and peace and purpose. And that's what we're looking at over 5 weeks. And I've got the pleasure of talking about peace this week. Last week, Sam spoke about hope, and I chatted about the love the week before. If you've missed any of those, you can actually catch them online, so you can catch up on that. But we know, we know this, we have this sense, we have this feeling that, okay, there's got to be something somewhere. And then Jesus came, and he promised this. He said this. He didn't just speak about these things. He said, I am the source of this stuff. He says this in John 16:33. He says, in this world, you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. Now, the first half of that verse there is a bit of a duh, right? Yeah. So if you're not a follower of Jesus, or you are a follower of Jesus, that's like stating the obvious, man. The sky is blue. Okay, right? I mean, yeah. You're like, so, okay, we can all go along with that first part of the verse. In this world, you will have trouble. Okay, if you have never had any trouble in your life, please tell me where you've been living. How in the world have you accomplished that? Tell me, please. Let us all, put us out of our misery. Save us, please. In this world, you will have trouble. Yeah, I'm with you there, Jesus. I totally got you. And then he makes this incredible claim. Take heart, I've overcome the world. So we have an option here. We have a couple options. We can either say, oh, it's just somebody you know when you've had a problem in your life and somebody does that thing where they sort of it feels like they pat you on the head. They just give you some sort of platitude, oh, don't you know, everything will be all right. The sun will come out tomorrow. And you know what I mean? So either Jesus is actually patronizing us with some platitude. Take heart. It's okay. I've overcome the world. Just take heart. Or he's lying and he's delusional, right? Or it's true. And as followers of Jesus, we're allowed to ask questions, by the way. We're allowed to wrestle with what Jesus says because he's either making this audacious claim or he's patronizing us. So I think we should look into it and find out, okay, we agree that there's trouble. Okay, there's tons of trouble. But how do we know that you have actually overcome the world? Is that really true? Do you know, have we got any examples? Have we got any things we can look at from Jesus' life and say, okay, is there an example? Is there something that took place? So thankfully, there is, right? So you might know the story. Jesus was here. All of his disciples were together. Those disciples were another word for followers. These followers, this band of men that he'd gathered, and then this wider group of women that all followed him. There was this huge group of people that were following him, this close circle, and they go into Jerusalem. And so this is the context. They're arriving in Jerusalem. They think they're going to ride into victory, except they ride into defeat. They didn't expect what happened. What happened was they arrive in the city. The people are celebrating, the crowds are chanting his name. They're worshiping. They're throwing palm leaves down. They're making a way for him. And then a week later, the same crowd, this mob that had gathered in Jerusalem for what was a religious festival called Passover, they'd all gathered in this city to come back to celebrate Passover. A week later, the same crowd is not screaming his praise, but they're screaming for his death, And what they thought they were riding into some victorious moment where Jesus is going to be something. They actually ride into a moment of what to them would just seem like utter defeat. They're there when Jesus is arrested and betrayed and beaten and put on trial. And then they're there when they actually watch him be whipped and then nailed to a cross. and die. Like the whole thing changes. It's huge trauma. If you've ever had a trauma in your life, this is a huge traumatic situation. Okay, when you woke up Thursday morning, it was very different to when you woke up on Saturday morning. Okay, and in just a space of a couple of days, everything had changed dramatically. It's like you're all getting ready to go somewhere. You want to go on a holiday together. You're so excited. Children are excited, or your friends are excited. You're gathering, you're getting ready. You've got everything planned, and you're going to get there, and you get in the car, and you're just driving, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody hits you from the side. Totally unexpected, totally unplanned, and it changes everything that you had organized for the future. In one moment, everything changed for them. And in this context, they are worried and they have no idea what to go forward with. So I would say that's a great example we can use to say there's trouble, right? I mean, that's a troubling thing. And here's how it's written about. We're going to look at two Gospels in parallel. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are 4 books, and you can think of them like biographies. So 3 of them are eyewitness accounts that they're written by people who were actually there. And Luke was written by someone who wasn't there himself, but he investigated what took place. You can read about it. So we've got 4 eyewitness accounts or biographies about the life of Jesus. And it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And we're going to take John and Luke today and sort of just piggyback and jump between the two to tell the story. And this is one of the reasons, if you're just curious about faith, this is one of the reasons that the Gospels are believable. For example, if you were to have a barbecue yesterday, lovely weather, if you had a barbecue yesterday, and I asked one of you about what happened, and you could tell me what you remembered and what took place, and then I asked someone else what happened and what they remembered and what took place. Now, they're not going to give the exact same word-for-word account. If they do, in a criminal court, that's called lying. Because they believe that these people have colluded to create the story to make sure So what should happen when people give an account of something is this person says it a little bit differently. And we had this, and this is what we were done. And this person adds in a different detail to the same story. And the 2 stories together, the 2 people that we talk about the barbecue, we get a fuller picture of what took place. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John do that. And there's differences in there, but the differences aren't contradictory. The differences are complementary because they add their recollection of what took place. So that's why we're bouncing between the 2. So in John chapter 20, it says this: on the evening of the first day of the week, and this is after everything had just fallen apart, after they'd been hit sideways by this car. On the evening of the first day of the week, the disciples were together behind locked doors for fear of the Jewish leaders. When Jesus appeared and said, "Peace be with you." And Luke writes about it like this. He says, while they were still talking about what happened. The thing that they're talking about, what had just happened, is what Sam talked about last week. So if you missed that one, it's a good little plug to go ahead and listen to that. So while they were still talking about what happened, Jesus suddenly appeared and said, "Peace be with you." So, okay, Jesus appears. And does that mean, poof, all the trouble goes away? Does it mean like, okay, Jesus is here now. Yes, everything's cool, everything's fine, that's all perfect. Is that what happens? So Luke tells us what the reaction is. It's in this 24, verse 37. They're startled and frightened, thinking he's a ghost. And Jesus is like, why are you frightened? Yeah? Why do you doubt it's really me? Look at my hands, look at my feet. You can touch me and see. A ghost doesn't have flesh and bones. He's saying like, come on, check it out, And then it carries on. It says this, it says, they still did not believe because of joy and doubt. And he asks them, have you got anything to eat? So they gave him some fish and he ate it. The Greek word there for to not believe means to be suspicious or distrustful. Is this too good to be true? Is that sort of suspicion. It means to not trust. It means to not believe, to not trust that what you're seeing is real. It's like when somebody rings you up or you get one of those emails or one of those cards that used to come through the letterbox. You get a card saying, you have been chosen. You have won 100,000 pounds, right? You're like, all you need to do is call this number or sign up here or did it. And you're thinking you sort of read it and you think, it's too good to be true, right? There's people that try to sell you something and you sort of think, yeah, this is what they're doing. This is what it is. So because it's joy and doubt, the description that the words being used in the Greek mean to this is just confusingly too good to be true. I don't know what I should feel. It's kind of cool that it's so honest, which is helpful for us as well. And then carries on. It says, Jesus opened their minds so they could understand the scriptures. And he told them it was written that he would suffer and die and rise again on the third day. And this message of salvation will be taken from Jerusalem to all the nations. And you are the witnesses of these things. We don't know how many people are in the room. There was a number of people, more than we know. We don't have a record of accurately how many people were there. You, he's saying, you plural, collectively, you are the witnesses of these things. And then John carries on with the narrative, John 20, and it says, and again Jesus said, peace be with you. As my Father has sent me, I am sending you. And he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. In John's narrative, he doesn't include the bit about, you think I'm a ghost, touch me and have some fish to eat. You see how they have the same experience, but then they add different details. And then the beginning and the ending, they come back together again. And where Jesus said, you'll be my witnesses everywhere, John says it like this, as my Father has sent me, I'm sending you. And he breathes on them and says, receive the Holy Spirit. Another thing that's incredibly cool about the eyewitness encounters that took place with Jesus is because except for Mary, they're all a group encounter. He didn't show up to one, it's not a one-on-one experience. It's a group of people that see the resurrected Jesus. And we can't go into all the details now, but it also gives even greater gravitas and weight to the fact that he chose to reveal himself to one woman on her own. It's so intentional. To choose the one woman on her own, the invalid witness, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Culturally and politically and socially, the invalid witness. But he chose to deliberately reveal himself to one person, and then all the other experiences are in front of a group. The two people that Sam talked about last week. The group of people that are in the room. He shows up. It's in front of a group of people. Now, think about it like this. This is why it's important as we wrestle with whether or not Jesus is worth following and worth believing. So let's imagine one of you has an experience, just one of you, have an experience. So this morning, on your way coming into town, let's say you're walking, and just over there on the other side of the building, you saw koala bear, right? Okay. And you come in and you tell us, I've just seen a koala bear. You're never going to believe it. I've seen a koala, right? And we're kind of like, yeah, okay, right. Why did you see a koala in Letchworth? Okay? And it'd be easy to disbelieve and discount. But what if, for some reason, everybody in the room had been walking together and we had all seen the koala bear? What happens to the testimony, the validity of the experience? So one thing we have to be careful of, when other religions say they've had an experience with an angel, they've had an experience with this, and it's actually just you by yourself in some cave somewhere, nobody can back it up, nobody can disagree with you because it's your own little sheltered experience. The resurrection of Jesus took place in front of people all the time, which gives it a validity and allows you to say, no, that wasn't what happened. I was there. I was there in that room when it took place. So it would be very easy for people afterwards, if Jesus coming back from the dead was just a rumor, it would have been so incredibly easy for the groups of people to say, whoa, I was there. That's not actually what happened. That's not what took place. Paul writes later on in Corinthians that Jesus showed up to over 500 people in one meeting. It becomes a publicly verifiable event. So it's helpful as we wrestle with who Jesus is and if he did what he said he would do, to know some of these kind of things. And so it's incredible that most of his experience, all but one of the experiences are eyewitness group encounters. So that was an aside, by the way. So how is the peace that Jesus offers a peace that overcomes the trouble in the world? And is this actually a peace? Is this the peace that we're looking for? And we'll look at a couple of things. I want to say this. Jesus' peace that he offers is a peace that's greater than fear. His peace is greater than fear. I love the detail in the story. They say they were behind locked doors. They were hiding because of fear. John and Luke talk about the disciples being afraid. They were there because they were in fear. They're hiding. John said they're hiding because they're afraid of the Jewish authorities. They don't know what's going to happen in their life. They are hiding. And we know this. Fear does this. Fear can trap us. Mentally, fear can trap us in our minds, in our hearts, in our bodies, and it's like being behind a locked door, isn't it? You experience something, and it's like fear can trap you. It can make you a prisoner. Whether it's rational or irrational fears, it can trap you. Whether it's imagined or real, it can trap you. Whether it's something that did happen or you're worried about might happen, it can trap you. Fear traps us. It holds us back. It ties us down. And they lock themselves away because they wanted to feel safe. But safety isn't the same as peace. Feeling safe isn't the same as having peace. Right? But we know this. Whether you follow Jesus or not, you know this is true because you probably had experiences in your life where you've tried to, find ways to find safety, but even though you've circumstantially might have been somewhere that you locked up and closed and built the barriers and shut everything down, and even though you might feel like you're in a safe place, it doesn't mean there's safety. You don't feel safe in here, right? And this is what is going on. And into that space, the space that's closed off, the space that's been locked down, the space that's been pulled away, into that space, Jesus steps and says, peace. Into that space, he brings peace. Peace be unto you. We follow a Jesus who will enter locked doors. He will go through locked doors. He will enter closed spaces. And it's something you might be, that's a bit frightening, that's a bit weird. It's not a violation. Somebody who chases you behind a locked door because you're trying to get away from them is different from somebody who comes through a locked door because they're trying to find you and rescue you. This isn't a violation of them. They're hiding and they're frightened and they're behind a locked door. And Jesus goes through a locked door and in our dark places because he wants to find us and rescue us and bring us peace. And he goes into the places that we've gone to. That's where he finds us. And this is what he does to them. He goes to them. He speaks peace into their hidden hearts. And the second thing is peace is greater than doubt. And this is cool. I mean, the eyewitness accounts are so incredibly honest. Isn't it cool? Like, Jesus is there. He's like, hey, guys. And they're like, who the heck are you? It's a ghost, right? Like, they don't even believe it's... How can you not recognize him? How can you not believe it's him? He's actually standing there, and they don't believe it. It literally says, we do not believe it's you. It's like, how, they doubted it was Jesus. They were unsure. They were suspicious. They were confused. And instead of rebuking them and telling them off, because it could have been like, come on, God, I've been with you for 3.5 years. You know me. You should know by now. He's like, you can recognize me. Like, come on, like, recognize me. Like, this is me. He doesn't tell them off. He doesn't berate them. He doesn't ridicule them. He doesn't shame them. He meets them. He meets them where they're at. I just think it's so cool. It's just precious. It's personal. And he's like, no, it's okay. I'm not a ghost. I'm like, go ahead, feel my hands. It's okay. Put your hand on my side. Look, it's me. It's really me. And even that wasn't enough. Like, But we have a tough time believing Jesus, and we can't actually physically see him. They're seeing Jesus, physically touching him, and still not believing. Right? And they're like, "Nyeh." He's like, okay, come on, give me some food. Have you got any food? A ghost can't eat. He gives them another proof that it's really, just think about it. Like, what? He doesn't even have to do it. He could just say, it's me. Just trust me. Just believe me. Just have faith, you idiot. Like, I mean, he didn't have to do any of that stuff. But he lets them touch him. He lets them feel the wounds, discover the pain and sorrow and anguish that he's been through, and then he eats with them. He fellowships. He shares food with them. Like, it's crazy, you know? I mean, it's so refreshing. It's so honest, isn't it? You know? It's just so honest that his own followers doubted and didn't believe it was him. And then John includes a bit that Luke doesn't include in his story. And John tells us about a guy named Thomas. You might have heard about Thomas because Thomas gets a bad rap, right? Thomas is known as Doubting Thomas. And it says, Thomas was not there with the others when Jesus had appeared. And they told Thomas, we have seen the Lord. And Thomas says, unless I see the nail marks on his hands and feel them for myself and touch his side, I will not believe. And maybe they said to him, hey, he showed up, we didn't believe him, and Jesus was like, feel my hands and touch my side. And maybe Thomas is like, okay, fine. Yeah. I don't believe you. I don't believe any of this stuff happened. Okay, but if I see Jesus and he lets me do the same thing that he let you do, then maybe I'll believe. Right? It's cool, isn't it? I mean, it's just so honest, isn't it? So Thomas didn't believe his friends. He should have believed his friends, right? He doesn't believe his friends. They don't believe Jesus is really there. Thomas doesn't believe his friends. I mean, there's so much unbelief in this whole story. It's crazy. And it says in John 20, a week later, they were all together again. And even though the doors were locked, it talks about doors being locked, Jesus appears and says, peace be to you. And then turning to Thomas, he says, put your fingers here. See my hands? Put your hands on my side. Stop doubting. Believe. You know, it's just like, he it's like he purposefully sought Thomas out. It feels like he just looks for him, you know? And it doesn't happen while Thomas was by himself, fishing, or while Thomas was on his way to the shops, or while Thomas was at home reading or something. It happened again in a group. They're all together again, and Jesus shows up in front of a group again. And he says, Thomas, try this. Thomas, do this. It's so cool. And I know, as I said before, a second ago, Thomas is known as Doubting Thomas. But I think that's a bit unfair. It should be Doubting Disciples. Like, nobody, it's like, hey, that's all just plain Thomas. Like, you know, let's include the bit about Thomas because, like, you know, he'll be the, like, scapegoat. He'll be the fall guy, you know. Thomas didn't believe, but I did, you know. I mean, like, it's like Thomas gets this really bad rap. But actually, the story tells us none of them believed. Nobody did. Yeah, he's the, like, you know, forever, poor guy, he's forever known with this reputation, and the others have sort of, like, slipped under the radar, right? But, like, no, he's just like, but how cool is it that Jesus, even his closest friends and followers, were allowed to doubt and didn't actually believe? Because let's be totally honest, dead people stay dead. They saw it happen. You do not expect Jesus to come back from life, let alone anybody to come back from the dead, right? You do not expect it. And after Thomas has done this, he then has this incredible response. Thomas cries out and he says, my Lord and my God. My Lord and my God. He's saying, like, I mean, he could have said, hey, my friend, you know, we've been friends for a few years. My teacher, my rabbi, my coach, my mentor, my influencer. But Thomas has this incredible declaration of faith. We don't need to rush past this moment. And he says, my Lord, my God. Okay, this is totally blasphemous in a Jewish culture. He's saying, this individual, you shall have no gods before me, was one of their major commands. You shall not make false idols. You shall not make images. And all of a sudden, he is saying to the man standing there, my Lord, my God. It's a massive declaration of faith. It's this huge testament, you know. I mean, the others might have doubted, but Thomas seems to be the only one to have said, Lord, my God. They'd been with him for 3.5 years. They'd seen him walk on water. They'd seen him feed people. They'd seen him spit in the dirt and heal a blind man. They'd seen him heal lame people. They'd seen him heal lepers. They'd seen so much stuff. They'd listened to him when he taught stories, when he spoke in parables and gave these incredible life lessons. They'd seen him when he came up against the religious leaders. They'd been with Jesus for 3.5 years. Why is it now that they recognize he is God? Because here is when he has overcome the world. My Lord, my God. They had seen him die. They had seen him die and come back to life. Otherwise, there's no point believing in him. He could just be a great teacher. Right? Something happened. Something so critical happened that they became followers of Jesus, not as their rabbi or their teacher or their mentor or their coach, but as their Lord and God. This is what's taking place. And so Jesus says, because you have seen me, you believe. But blessed are those who have not seen me and yet believe. That's cool, isn't it? Because that's us. That's going to be, it's like Jesus for a moment is just talking bigger than what's going on in the room. Hey, Thomas, it's great that you've seen me and believe. I'm so pleased for you. There's going to be people who will believe in me and they won't see me the same way that you saw me. This is what he's saying, right? And that's us. And here's where we are. Here's what we need to recognize. Jesus did not shame them in their doubt, but he met them in their doubts. Not only that, but he invited questions. They're asking him stuff. He offers evidence. And he opened their minds to understand. And that's the same journey that we go on. That is the exact same journey that we can actually learn to trust and believe that Jesus is who he says he is. Because we can't physically see him. We can't physically touch him. But we can bring our doubt, bring our confusion, bring our questions, and we can look at the evidence, and our minds can be opened to understand. Okay, think about this. You cannot see Julius Caesar. You cannot see Homer, the Greek poet. You can't see them. And maybe if there's any images, we don't even know if it really is them anyway. Same as is that really what Jesus looked like? I don't know. You know, right? So, okay, the back of a coin, the back of Julius Caesar. Okay, right? You can't see them physically the same way. We can't see them. But you can examine the historical, cultural, social evidence. You can grapple with what would have been going on and what about this and why that and why this. And you can do like every good archaeologist does who cannot see the person in the flesh, but they look at the evidence that's left over. And it's the same way that we understand things, and it opens our minds to understand, this is what ancient society was like, or this is what these people lived like, or this is what it was like in the Bronze Age, because we are allowed to bring our questions, we're allowed to investigate stuff, and we look at the evidence, and it helps open our minds to understand. And we can't go into it today, but we've done a number of series over the years about looking at some of the stuff like apologetics, which just means evidence for the resurrection and why it's true and why it is what it is. And if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, we'd love to talk about it and give you some resources. And there's plenty of things out there that are helpful. And if you're doubting, if you've got questions, if you're curious, if you're confused, perfect. So were the disciples. So were his closest followers. You're in great company. You're in the best place possible. Because in our doubts, in our uncertainty, in our confusion, that's where Jesus met us. That's where Jesus met them, in that place. You don't have to meet him and have it all figured out first. You bring your questions, you bring your doubts, you bring your suspicions, you bring your cautions, you bring your uncertainties. That's where we meet Jesus. You don't have to have it buttoned up and all sorted out and no. You just bring your genuine questions and investigate it and explore it and then make a decision for yourself. And the third thing, is that this is a peace that empowers. He gave them a peace that empowers. It was a peace that got rid of fear. It was a peace that was greater than doubt. And it's a peace that empowers. So remember the story. The disciples had run away. They were hiding. They thought it was all over. They thought it was done. They had abandoned their friend. They're grieving. They're ashamed of the future. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going on. And everything that they had hoped for was now destroyed. Right? I mean, this is what's going on. And into that place, Jesus speaks peace. It gets rid of the fear. He meets them in that place of doubt, and he commissions them. He commissions them to look again towards the future. They thought the world was over. And he's saying the world is bigger than you even have any idea of. My world is over. It's all crashing down. I'm stuck in this room. We're locked away. We're hiding. And he says, this is the message that's going to go from Jerusalem to the whole world. Why are you telling people that who basically have no worldview? Who are so caught up in their own problems, in their own issues, in their own circumstances, in their own fear, in their own, everything's falling apart, in their own emotional turmoil. And in that place, he's telling them the world is so much bigger than you can ever imagine. They couldn't have even imagined the other side of the world. This is thousands of years ago in ancient Palestine. Okay, how big was their world? They knew about Greece. They knew about Rome. Like, how big was their worldview? Did they know about Antarctica? I don't know, right? Did they know about the tropical jungles in Central America? I don't know, right? Did they know about the wild plains in America? Like, I don't know. I doubt it. There's no evidence that anybody knew much beyond their borders or their, right? And yet he's telling these people the world is bigger than you have ever imagined, and even bigger than you can at this moment have hope for. It's bigger. It's more. It's bigger. It's crazy. He's empowering them. And he said this in John 20:21, as the Father sent me, I'm sending you. It's like in the same way that I have been sent, I'm now sending you. That's crazy. The same commission, the same mission, the same Father who sent me has given me the authority to send you. It's just incredible. He gives them a purpose and a future. He gives them a hope. Because true peace does that for you. Because no matter what you're going to face in life, a true peace says, there's more. Right? The true peace says, no matter what the fear is, there's more, right? No matter what my doubts are, there's more. This is the peace that empowers and overcomes the world. Jesus did more than comfort them. He did more than just platitudes. He did more than tap them on the head and make them feel nice with some little good saying. He did more than comfort them. He commissioned them. He equipped and empowered them with purpose. Peace isn't just the absence of fear. It's the presence of courage. Peace isn't just the absence of fear. It's the presence of courage. It's something more. We all know peace is something deeper. It's something more. Otherwise, it'd be so easy to find, right? Just read a book and you've got it. No. Jesus says, I am the source of peace. It's me alone that can give you a peace that's greater than your fear, that meets you in your doubts and invigorates and empowers you for purpose in the future. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Jesus backed up what he was saying by what he did, right? We're allowed to ask questions and investigate and research the story. Okay? Otherwise, he's a liar. Otherwise, this is a false claim, and don't follow false people, okay? If Jesus is an idiot, please walk away. But if Jesus is the Savior, think twice before you walk away. I have overcome the world. It's a promise that is with them. We're going to wrap up. We're going to pull it all into land. But Jesus never promised a trouble-free life. He promised peace that overcomes fear and doubt and shame and worry. He gives us a peace that is greater than the defeat, greater than the circumstances around us. And I don't know where you are today. Maybe you feel like you're in that place where you're behind a locked door. Maybe you feel like you're in a place where you've battened down the hatches, you've withdrawn, you've pulled away, you've had to understand it. You've had to build up some walls, maybe to protect yourself, maybe to whatever's going on, and maybe you feel like that's you. Maybe you feel like you're in that place, or maybe you feel like you're in the place where you just doubt everything. You just don't even know if it's really true. You don't even know if it's even worth believing in. Or maybe you're in that place where I don't even have hope for tomorrow. I don't have hope for this afternoon. I can't see further than the next week. I can't even think that there's more to this. And in fact, maybe I just feel so much in myself that I've just blown it so many times. There's no way I can be used by God or be something different. And this is what fear does. Fear cripples us. Fear ties us up in chains and traps us. And wherever you are today, there is one who speaks peace to you. And I just want to pray a simple prayer, if that's all right. And maybe you're not in one of those positions, but maybe there's someone in your life who is. Maybe it's a loved one. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's a child, a parent, a neighbor. Maybe there's somebody in your life who you know is just bound. And more than anything, they need to know the Prince of Peace who can step into that situation and bring peace. So I just want to pray for you and pray for those people on your heart. God, I just pray for everybody in the room now that they would know and discover the Prince of Peace. God, I ask that you would open our minds to understand the Prince of Peace. Open our ears to hear you when you say, peace be with you. Peace be with you. And God, I just ask by your goodness and your kindness that you know what's going on in people's lives, and I ask for your healing. I ask for your love. I ask for your grace. I ask for your strength to just be with each and every person. Be with those ones in our lives that we ache for. Bring them peace, Father. And thank you that you don't leave us just comforted, but you commission us. And I ask for your strength to empower everyone today to know that there is a future and a hope. God, you are a good God, and you give us an incredible peace. In your wonderful name we pray. Jesus is the only way we can discover a life worth living. We're going to carry on next week, and then the week after. We got 2 more weeks of this series. I know we're nearly at 12 o'clock, so if you've got children across the road, please head over and collect them. If you have not yet signed up for the welcome lunch next week, please do so at the back. And if you've got any questions, I'd love to have a chat. Thanks.
In this series, we will explore how the resurrection of Jesus changes people's lives and how he invites us to discover a life worth living.